Hello guys, welcome to PHP Numbers. In PHP, or like you know already, PHP provides automatic data conversion. So if you assign an integer value to a variable, the type of that variable will be an integer. But then if you also assign a string to that same variable, the type will become a string. So this automatic conversion can actually break your code. Note that. Now, in PHP numbers, we'll be looking at the following: integers, floats, infinity, not a number, how to convert PHP numbers to numerical strings, and how to cast strings and floats to integer. So let's get to it. So I have my note editor open, bracket. So let's create our PHP tag. Now, let's create some variables. So I will call the first one x is equal to 50. And let's call y is equal to 30.4 and z is equal to let's call this 1.9 exponential 411. I'll tell you why this is. Okay, so let's also create another one. Let's call this okay, xyz, or let's use a, b, c. So d are cos 8. All right, so now let me explain this. The first variable we created here is what we refer to as an integer because it has no decimal point. The second one we have here, like I've told you or I've shown you before in our previous video, is what we refer to as a float or double because it has a decimal point. And what we have here is an infinity value because it is going to go down to infinity when we display this. And what we have here is what we call not a number, none, because on conversion, it turns out to become not a number. Now, the first thing you need to know is in PHP, you can check if a variable is an integer. And how do we do that? We can use any of these functions. So the first one is int. Okay, so we want to check a. If a is an integer, so we can echo out the value. So I will say echo, and let's open up our numbers.php file. So where do we have the error? It said line 16. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, variable a. Always take note of those little errors. And it shows you 1. 1 means that it is a variable. Sorry, it is an int. If I do that for b, you see, b has no value. So let me use something else. Let me use var dump so that we can see this properly. So var dump is going to open it up for us properly. Sorry, underscore. So as you can see, var dump of b is false because it's not an int. So let me go back to a. So you can see var dump of is int a is true because a is an integer, so it is true. So if I go back and change this to, so we can also use is int or is integer to also check that. And you see it is still true. And you can also use is long. So is long means is long integer. And we expect it to still be true. So that's that on integers. Now let's go down to our float, b. Let's reload. And as you can see, its long is not b. But if we say is float, that is how you check for float. And you see it is true. And if we also say is double, it's also true. Okay? Now, we were talking about the infinity. So for infinity, which is c, let's check it out. C, that is variable c. And as you can see, if we go in there and just say var_dump of c, of variable c, you can see now it's telling you it is a float, but it is infinity. Okay? It is a float, but it is infinity. Also, we can do that for the not a number. So not a number is variable d. And let's see. And you can see it's also a float, but it is what? Not a number, like I specified here. Not a number. All right. Now let's check if some values are numeric. So let's create some new variables. I'll call this price 1, and I will just say 500. I'll call this price 2. I'll put this as a string and say 400. And I'll say name is equal to bill. Now we want to check their is numeric value using is numeric. So is numeric helps you to check if a value is numeric. Remember, we are dealing with numbers. So numeric so for the first one, let's check for price 1. Save that. And you can see price 1 is a boolean. It is true. It's telling you it's true because it is numeric. What about price 2? It is true. Even though it is in a string, you need to understand something, that PHP is always going to change it to an integer. Let's do something here. So let me say price 3 is equal to, so I'm going to add a string to an integer. I want you to see something. Okay, so you see price 2, even though it is inside of quotes, it is also true, it is numeric. What about price 3? We're adding a string to an integer. What will PHP do? So let's check it. Price 3. You see, price 3 is also true because what has happened is PHP has converted this string to a number and has added it together. So let's say if we echo price 3, so let's echo price 3 to see what we get. You can see price 3 is 300. Okay, so let me take that out. Let me just comment it out. Now, if we check for name, is name numeric? That should be false. It's false because name is not numeric. Name is actually a proper string. Okay? Now, something else you also need to note is that you can change variables to, you can cast variables or integers. Sorry, you can cast strings and floats to integers. And you do that using the int. You use that using the int function. So let's see it in action. So we have this variable b, which is a float, right? So let's see if we can cast it to an integer. So I'm just going to create a new variable called int cast, And to cast, all you need to do is open bracket, then int, then put the variable that you want to cast just behind it. Then let's echo it. Echo int cast. So let me comment that var dump out. And as you can see, variable b, which was previously a float, 30.4, has been casted to what? An integer, which is just 30, because there is no longer dot. So when there is no dot or decimal point, it is already an integer. Also, this price 2 that we have here, which is currently a string, let's cast it. So we can say price 2, okay? And you see it has been casted to an integer. So basically, guys, this is it.